Welcome to Senator Frankie's eMTB channel. Today we're going to check out this highly customized Turbo Levo from a local legend and a good friend to the channel, Orvin the Oz. Before we get into the interview, let's quickly glance over the specs of the Turbo Levo Pro. It's a mullet wheel setup with 160 millimeters of travel up front and 150 millimeters of travel in the rear. It has a Brose motor with 90 newton-meters of torque, 700 watt-hours of battery, a Mastermind display, Fox Factory 38 fork with the factory X2 airshock, SRAM X01 drivetrain, code RSCs for the brakes, Levo Traverse carbon wheels, 2.6 butchers in the front and 2.6 eliminators in the rear. In SoCal riders, if you need a personalized mechanic that can rebuild, fix, and tune your rig, hit up CJ Faust at Faust Tuning Works on Instagram _inside FTW. CJ knows what he's doing and he's been at it for over 10 years. So give him a message if you need a rebuild and a tune-up. So with that said, let's dive right into the interview with Orvin. All right, guys, we are here with Orvin, and today we have the specialized Turbo Levo Pro. We're just gonna go over a few rider details. We're gonna get to know who Orvin is. How many years have you been riding mountain bikes?
I've been around since suspension still had elastomer springs in them.
Yeah.
And parts that barely work, so I'd say at least over 20 years.
Over 20 years. That is a very, very long time. I've ridden with you a whole bunch of times and you've done a lot of racing in your mountain biking career. So tell us a little bit about where you were racing and how the racing scene was when you were racing.
Yeah, I hit a lot of regional and other series like back in the Norba days. This is like the height of downhill racing back in the golden years, what they call it now. But near the end of my racing stint, I mainly focused on California series like Fontana and Northern California, or what they called back then Cal State. I did a lot of various kind of formats, but mainly downhill and dual slalom. My first riding experience is a race. My friend just threw me in on a race and registered me, and that was my first mountain biking experience.
That's awesome. And then from there, it didn't stop, huh?
No, I just got addicted, and the bug bit me hard.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you do for a living?
I work for an avocado company. It's an avocado packing facility, so I'm still in the agriculture business, but more in a white collar setting now. So
okay.
I'm just your typical pencil pusher, just jockey guy these days.
How much has the e-bike impacted you in the last 5 years?
On a personal level, it really changed the way I look at mountain biking. It really made me fall in love all over again with mountain biking, because physically I think I was at a point back in 2018 where yes, I'd like to ride more, but physically I just can't keep up with like the regimen of like being in shape, and mentally I still want to charge hard. E-bike really brought that back to the fore again.
Let's just get into the details of your customized Turbo Levo. So this is actually a Turbo Levo Pro.
Yeah, so where to begin? The Levo started out its life from the box as a Pro model. But it never got out as a Pro model. I tend to like build my own bike the way I like it. So the only thing that really came out of the box was the frame and the motor and the display unit. Yeah, so it's a Turbo Levo Pro with my personal touches.
Okay. The fork obviously is a Zeb Ultimate. Tell us why you went with a RockShox system other than a Fox, because I know a whole bunch of people, they love riding Fox and they swear by it, but you're one of those guys that I see that always has the RockShox suspension. I'm
just used to RockShox suspension and the way they work. It's far more simplified. You don't have a lot of clicks on adjustment, because a few clicks here and there do make a difference for me. And I'm more of a fire and forget kind of setup guy, that once I get my baseline done and fine tune it during my rides, I usually leave it. I usually just check my air pressures for both the fork and the rear suspension, because they don't stay the same over a period of time. But I always like SRAM products because in RockShox in particular, as far as the suspension duties, because they're easier to work on for me.
Yep.
And setup is fairly simple and straightforward, and they just work.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to ask too many people around these days, especially the last 4 years. RockShox has really, come to head as far as matching the performance.
Definitely stepped up the game.
Yeah, and it just works. And I prefer the setting, and I prefer the feel, and I like support more than comfort, and it just provides all those characteristics for me.
RockShox is probably one of the things that I want to do with my build too, because right now it's my Turbo Levo is on the Performance X. The support is not there.
There's so many specs out there right now that work. I mean, as is, you don't have to do anything. It's just that when you get to a certain level of riding, that's when you start kind of, like seeking certain, performances or like pluses, I guess. Yeah. But RockShox has really done a great job. Like on their rear shock, like they have the gradients on the sag, which it makes it easier for everybody to get the guesswork out of the way, like making sure, because that's the most important part on rear shocks, getting the sag.
Yeah. A very cool transmission, the latest transmission from SRAM.
It's the XO
It's
version,
the XO version.
Which is very similar, if not identical, to the engineering and structure of the XX, which is a different coating.
Okay.
And a little bit of difference in parts like the pulley, the jockeys are different material. Pro tip, you can run the XX pulley set, jockey wheel set onto the XO. So you get the benefit of the magic wheel and the lower pulley, which I did. Just because it's cool.
Very nice. Moving on to the brakes. You're one of the few that loves the SRAM Code RSCs. Tell us why you love the Code RSCs.
Yeah, because those are 5 years old. I like to tinker with my bike parts, so I know what would break, what's working, how to make it work. And the way the brakes are engineered and constructed, it makes it easy to kind of diagnose if there's a problem. Many people, would say, well, other brands have fire and forget, you don't have to worry about for years. But, just like any other high performance equipment or tools or vehicle, at some point you'll need to maintain it. But in performance, I like the way I could control and change when it engages, how it engages. You have the adjustments available.
Yeah.
So if I just want to relax on certain rides where we're not pushing hard, I'd like to kind of go a little deeper in my stroke.
Yeah.
And when I'm riding normal, I like to have the engagement, further up, so I can just lock it up if I want to, or modulate quicker without going through the stroke.
Full stroke.
To me, it works, and it has been. It's the setup I've been racing for years. It never failed me as long as I keep up with my maintenance.
A lot of industry people have a lot of say on like, oh, this one's no good, this one's no good. But I think in terms of what you're used to and what works for you, I think that's very important to how you feel comfortable during the ride, because you can trust what you know, and then these brakes.
And you mentioned the key word there is trust. You have to be able to trust your equipment, so you can maximize and focus on your riding, because without that, then you have a lot of things to worry about. And to me, when I slap these parts that I chose, personally, I mean, peace of mind. I just ride and push.
It works.
I know what's gonna go, and I know where it's gonna go. Hero dirt.
I know. It is coming down pretty hard, but we're gonna get through this interview. We're almost through. We have a few more questions. Wheels. So you've obviously have the E13 kit. You have the wheels from E13, the carbon bars, the stem. Tell us a little bit about you and E13.
I have been riding for E13 since I started racing, and I have personal friends there, and they're great. They have great warranty, policy.
Awesome. And
there are a lot of teams in the World Cup level that actually run their equipment, so they work. I just like the way they work around fitment. They make sure that they're providing options for other consumers for running SRAM or Shimano, that you can still run their product. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. So one of the things that they're starting to push are the cranksets for the Brose and Fazua, Bosch, and with pedal strike being one of those key factor in e-bike, and the way they kind of sit low. So they've started making 155 crank arm
nice.
ones. So
Yeah.
that's what I have right now. The new
155.
Helix and alloy cranks are starting to make a cool comeback. The cool machining and the round profile of it just looks beautiful, and I just have to have it.
One thing I've noticed that's very special on your bike is the saddle. What is so special about this particular model of saddle?
I'm just licking my lips right now just thinking about the saddle. The saddle is so good. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it's called the Power Pro with the mirror technology, which is the 3D printed material. I mean, I just want to feel it. I thought it was a fad because 3D printing's been kind of like coming to the fore in a lot of the saddle technology. But my friend at Specialized insisted that I gotta get one. When I jump on it, it's the most comfortable saddle I've had. I mean,
how much does this saddle run MSRP?
I believe it's about, depending where you get it, but it's either a $250 or $300 saddle. So
It's a high-end one, right
it's
there.
a price that's worth paying if you really want like one of the best saddles out there.
When you do a lot of e-biking, saddle is one of the important ones because when you're climbing, doing a lot of riding, it's like you're really on that saddle. So maybe investing in an expensive saddle is worth.
I can talk for half hour about that saddle. It's that good.
All right. Okay. I don't know if you want to disclose how much you paid for this bike, but MSRP wise, how much is this bike?
Good news, it's on sale.
Yes.
It's under $10,000 right now. It's a pro model, which is just the model below S-Works.
Okay.
So you're getting a Ferrari without paying Ferrari price if you purchase it right now.
Yeah.
Just like any other high-end bike, it'll probably like hover around $12,000 or so putting it together.
Okay. So out of all the e-bikes you've ridden, can you say this is best feeling bike that you've ridden across all the platforms that you've done?
It's definitely, as far as price, is the most expensive one, but it's also showing its worth on every ride and every limit I've pushed it to.
How many PRs have you broken since you've gotten this bike?
Lately, I've been able to like bring the times down because it took me, a couple of months to get the suspension setting and comfort level, confidence on corners. The last 4 rides, I've been able to retake and obtain some KOMs and PRs.
Nice.
So
what made you get this Turbo Levo?
like I said, I've ridden it before, so I already knew how it compares to like my current bikes that I have gone through. The main thing that I really like about it is the way it handled and the way the frame, it's stiff. It's a very stiff frame. So that means I can rely with the on the frame to ride straight and change direction, predictably, without your wheel, deflecting and making the bike kind of twitchy, like the rail was.
Okay.
The bike is solid. The frame is a good platform, and I'm very familiar with the FSR linkage, and that's why it's been used to this day because it's a really good, suspension system.
Yeah. Ridden both. Because I know your wife has the aluminum version. What is your take on the difference between, because a lot of people ask, should I get the aluminum? Should I get the carbon? Like, what is the actual difference between those two?
I actually rode her bike before I got this, so I can really speak on that behalf on a personal level. To be honest, there's really not a whole lot of difference. If all things considered, I wouldn't mind having an alloy myself. It's a little quieter. The vibration's a little bit more muted out a little bit. So it rides more comfortably, but you do feel a little bit of heft. It's a little heavier. Motor-wise, battery, they're all the same. Display is a little different. So if you have a preference on, the display setting, so that's one drawback on the alloy.
Out of all the motors that you've ridden E8000, EP8, the Bosch Performance CX, and then the Brose. Which one do you like the most?
In terms of what?
Let's just say overall, like if you had, if the Turbo Levo had the Bosch, would you rather have the Bosch motor on the Turbo Levo, or would you rather have the Brose motor on the Turbo Levo?
I've had 2 long personal experience between the Bosch CX, Performance CX line and the Brose. I think they're pretty close head to head. I would say Bosch has a little bit of edge on the initial punchiness of the torque sensor. Brose is a little bit more, Brose is a little bit more, I guess, intuitive. That's why it doesn't have that kind of like initial kick. So I kind of like that when I'm just kind of spinning and, you know, relaxing. Feels a little bit more natural. At peak power, I think the two are pretty much head to head. To me, it's a hard choice between the two, but I think I would give the edge on Specialized because the integration is just a little better. But the two, you can't go wrong. I mean, I would not put one over on top of each other because the two are just good platforms to have.
What's the one thing that you would not change about this bike?
The quietness.
Okay.
Jesus, it's like zen. Riding this bike downhill or any bumps or any chatter. I don't think I'll go back to a Bosch or a Shimano like powered unit right now because of the
clanking,
the free play on the clutch.
What's the one thing that you would want to see change on this bike?
Yeah, there's nothing I hate about it. I mean, I think we talked about this earlier. I've disassembled and worked on all of the bikes I've had before. I mean, I've stripped them down to like, you know, bare, and there's nothing in the construction and engineering the frame that made me think, what were they thinking? Like, everything is so well thought out. As far as that, there's nothing I'd like to, wish for or change, except for the suspension kinematic. I would like to get a little more progression at the end of the stroke.
Okay.
The last 2 months, I've ridden other recent release bikes like the Orbea Wild FS, the Yeti, the Transition Relay. The Relay comes pretty close to like the feel. But you know, there's really no bad bikes out there.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna ride this bike today because, you know, we're both on Levos. We're gonna go out for a ride. We're gonna get some footage of Orvin riding. Thank you guys. Thank you, Orvin, for sticking with the interview. Kind of some boring questions, but questions that I think viewers that are wanting to get this bike should think about, because, you know, these e-bikes are pretty expensive, and you know, we want to spend our hard-earned money into a good product. If you guys have questions for me that you want me to ask for our next bike, please leave them down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you guys. For now, we'll head back into the studio. Woo! So we went on a ride after our interview, and man, it is always challenging to try and chase a much better rider. I'm heavily leaning towards upgrading my suspension to the Zeb Ultimate and the Super Deluxe Ultimate as well. One detail I missed during our interview was that his fork is 170 millimeter travel. Pretty cool to have the option to add 10 millimeters of travel, something I'm definitely interested in doing. Hope you all learned something from our interview with Orvin. Always a pleasure talking bikes with him. Hit that like and subscribe button. Use my affiliate links in this video's description if you plan on purchasing any of the components listed in today's video. Or if you just want to get that Specialized e-bike, I have that link for you as well. And with that, we'll see you on the next one. And as always, stay electric. Peace.